Starting the stream. Hey, thanks for joining us for today's live streaming Q&A with Stedman Solutions. I'm Steve Stedman. I'm the founder and owner of Stedman Solutions, and this is our second episode of this live streaming event to answer your questions and answers. With me today is Derek Bovenkamp. Derek was one of the first team members to join Stedman Solutions. Gosh, what, about 5 years ago now, Derek, I think?
Yeah, 5 or 6 years.
Yeah. Okay. So can you share with everyone a little bit about what you do for Stedman Solutions before we get into the open Q&A?
Yeah. So, I mean, it started out, we did a lot of performance assessments where we would work with customers and do a assessment of their whole system with a performance focus. So we would help them make sure that their SQL Server is tuned for the best performance. And we would also do the same similar assessments with a kind of a system stability focus, where we would go in, make sure CheckDB is being run, make sure the backups are in place, and all settings are set according to Microsoft and our own best practices for running SQL Server. So we did helped quite a few customers out with that. Steve and I have also developed a lot of work around corruption repair. So unfortunately, when we get those calls when somebody has got a corrupt database and they need it fixed, and they usually don't have a backup, or they don't have a backup that they can go to because their backup is too old, or the corruption's been there for a long time and it's in the backups, we've gotten quite good at repairing corrupted databases. I would say mostly within the last 2 years, the great majority of our work is around working with clients on managed services. So rather than having like a full-time DBA, they can have Stedman Solutions as their DBA. So they can have our whole team, Steve and I and Eric and Laura, working with them to make sure that their systems are set up to best practices, and continually making sure that their SQL servers are monitored, and helping them out with all
All right.
database needs.
Well, welcome to this week's call, Derek.
Yeah, thank you.
Call number 2, and I guess maybe we should have had you here last week because we did get a couple corruption questions last week. So we'll see where the questions go today. We had a little bit of a goof up on some of the promotion for this, so I don't think we have as many live viewers as I expected. But we do have one question that was submitted, and we can jump right into that now if we'd like. If you'd like. So question number 1, covering up Derek on the screen a little bit. Sorry about that. But I have a query that runs fast in development and slow in production, and the databases and the data are exactly the same. After analyzing the plans, one system runs in about 6 seconds and the other takes over 30 seconds. Same hardware and server sizing. Why is one slower than another? And this is where my first response on this is, well, I'd really love to be able to sit down and look at some things like statistics.io and double check that things are truly exactly the same between both servers. I think that just because the schema is the same or the tables have the same amount of data in them doesn't always mean that everything else is the same, that the indexes are up to date or the right well, and on this one, it's an example. I looked at a plan, and the plans were using the same indexes, but it could be something different in the configuration. I don't know. Any thoughts from you on this one, Derek?
I mean, configuration, of course, I think we answered this question with more questions, looking at server load and knowing that everything else behind the server is the same. So one of the other things that I didn't mention that I do a lot of specialization with working with Steve and the team is around the back end and virtualization and server and SAN setup. And, that starts making me thinking, after we've looked at the SQL Server side, is there any other explanation? Is the production storage hit a lot harder than the test storage? Is that why it's running slower? So there's a lot of things to look at there.
Yep. Some other things that come to mind for me on the SQL Server end would be, I mean, even if both servers have the exact same amount of memory, with a development server, typically you don't have the same load as production. And if your production has a lot more load, uh, maybe you've got enough memory to handle what's being hit in development, but production might be doing a lot of paging in and out of memory to bring in data that's being used, depending on how big your database is, how much RAM you have, and what's being used where. Another thing that comes into mind a little bit is just just contention over uh, tables and things like that, where is there any locking or blocking going on? I mean, in your dev environment, how many people do you have actually inserting rows into a table that you might be querying against compared to production? Is there something going on where your select is being blocked by something else that's doing an insert or an update, for instance? That could certainly slow it down.
Yeah, and I start thinking too, like, what else is that? Is the database itself under more load uh, in other areas?
Right, right. Well, I'm back on your virtualization. I mean, what's the I/O look like on the host versus how much is being used by other servers on that same host, for instance, or cloud-based? I mean, what's the I/O and the overall, well, not just I/O, but CPU and all that could be a big difference there. Even though
Yeah, for sure.
the SQL Server versions might be the same, maybe there's some settings that are different. I mean, maybe uh, I don't know. Cost threshold for parallelism might be set differently. Who knows? Maybe max degree of parallelism could be different. Lots of things like that.
Yeah, and I think an important thing to share here for the question is check the easy stuff first. I shouldn't even say easy stuff, but check the more basic things like you mentioned, cost threshold for parallelism. Check those off first because there's a lot of times when you get into diagnosis and you just go, well, it can't be one of those. And you get down a rabbit hole, and then you have to come back and realize that, oh, it was the simple thing that I said it couldn't be. So, knock off as much as you can first. That way you're not wasting time with your diagnosis.
Yep, absolutely. All right. Well, that covers, I think, that question. I think we've answered it pretty well. But the key would be uh, getting hands-on and being able to take a look at it and see if we can get more details other than just a plan, for instance, and figure out what's different. And that's one of those things that, um, gosh, I think I mean, we've got a couple different services that we offer that could help in that area, but one of them that could help a lot would either be our performance tuning packages or our mentoring, where with our mentoring, you can buy a couple hours of our time and then we help you solve those kind of problems. And we can sit down, do a screen share, go through it with you, and teach you how to find those specific issues. So just keep that in mind. I think at this point, I'm not seeing any other questions coming in. Next week, I will do a much better job to promote this. Actually, no, I won't. Not next week. Next week is a holiday, so we won't be doing this next week. But on July 11th is our next one, and I will be doing a much better job promoting it so that more people know about it ahead of time. You're welcome to bring your questions. We're happy to take on any questions about SQL Server, database programming, Stedman Solutions, Database Health Monitor, all the things we do like that. So I think that almost wraps it up here. Thanks for joining today, Derek. I wish we
Yeah,
had a few
happy to be
more.
here.
Wish we had a few more questions to hit you with, but maybe next time.
Yeah, well,
And
I'll be back again, and yeah, please do send those questions in. We're happy to take a look at them and give any advice we can on these calls.
yep. And as we go forward with this, I will also be including other team members like Eric and Laura, and possibly Bill or other parts of the team to be able to talk and chat about different things and answer different questions. So thanks for watching. We hope to see you in 2 weeks. And please consider subscribing or hitting that bell so you'll be notified when we post new videos. All right. Have a great day.
Yeah, have a good one, everybody.